Maybe.
Oh my gosh. So we're 3 weeks in. We're 3 weeks into this movie.
I think
Uh
my eyeballs have already melted out.
already see what's even funnier though is that I watched Parasite now 3 times and I'm not dreading watching that 3 times. I've watched this movie 3 times with
Yeah,
more
and it's
space with more space in between the watches and I'm like this is it's actually odd. All right, so my like experience, I have like notes, but my experience watching is always like I'm never like dreading putting it on yet. I have not done
uh,
that yet.
I'm halfway there.
So
Just because I wasn't a huge fan of it to begin with, anyways.
yeah, so uh last week I wanted to really focus on the opening scene because I said the opening scene to this movie is weird.
Well, before we get to that, in case anybody's new coming into this and
Okay,
they
yeah.
maybe jumped on this one first before other ones, this is our show called 52 Ever, where we take a look at a DC movie once a week, every week for a whole year. So this year we're doing Justice League, and basically we'll watch it each week, and then we kind of just break down whatever we notice, or certain episodes will focus on something in general. But this is our third week, so we're still just now getting into it. But if you haven't seen our first or second week, then make sure to look back in our videos and start off with those.
Yeah. Sorry. I just want to keep going right in because uh thanks for actually doing the correct job of introducing the show. I always just like going right in because this idea blew my mind when I had this realization. So the opening of the movie, I think, is I mean it's iconic for this movie, right? For a lot of
Mhm.
good reasons and bad reasons. It's just Superman being interviewed by kids for a video podcast
Which
for the
isn't
YouTube
a thing.
channel. For the YouTube channel, really. And I'll get deeper into that in a second. But I want you to think back opening of Man of Steel, okay? The opening of Man of Steel, setting up who the bad guy is, setting up the MacGuffin,
Hmm.
setting up, what the main theme is of Clark being the one to overcome Krypton stagnation.
Okay.
So it's setting up the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
Uh Batman v Superman, similar thing. Batman, well, okay, it starts with Batman's death, the death of the Waynes for the bajillionth time. Uh, but then, like, the main opening is the uh the Metropolis scene from Man of Steel from Bruce Wayne's perspective, setting up that fight. Again, setting up bad guy. Suicide Squad, same thing. You get what's her name? Enchantress in that scene.
Hmm.
It's very long, but that's what it's doing. And then you have Wonder Woman opening about the gods, setting up bad guy, and history of Themyscira. So, if all of them have done that, why has this movie opened with kids talking to Superman?
Because Steppenwolf should never have been in the movie, and Superman should have been the villain the whole time.
Well, so I have something that's gonna, I think, break your brain a little bit.
Okay.
So, and this will make sense when we get into my notes because then I'm going to point this out. So it opens with Superman standing with the firefighters, right? He's just
Uh huh.
standing around. I guess he already saved people, I'm assuming.
No, well, I mean, there's probably people still dying, but he needs to talk to the kids first.
He does. But I like how they come up to him and like Superman, we have questions, and he's like he only answers them when they say it's for a podcast, which I
Hmm.
think is weird, but and he actually seems a little annoyed by it, which is odd. But I do like the line. I'm just gonna go through this. Did you ever fight a hippo? They're the most dangerous creatures. One of the kids says that. That's funny. Uh, and
He
this
said it
line.
was a stupid question.
Uh, well, yeah, the other kid did. But Superman is like his S is like a river and it flows,
hmm
and that got me thinking. Flowing. So, this Superman that we see in this scene, though like a little annoyed, I guess, is supposed to be classic Superman, right? That's what the scene is implying.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Okay. Now let's go back. Well, let's go forward in the movie to Flash complaining and being scared that Superman's going to come back different like Pet Cemetery.
Yeah.
Superman does change. He goes from being who he was in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman to being classic Superman.
hmm
So he does
Not
change.
initially, but he does.
He does change. Well, yeah, because he comes back and he's freaking out. So he does change. And then at the end of the movie, you see him flying off. This scene with the podcast kids is the end is like a end quote. This is the end of the movie that we're seeing.
Oh.
So when they ask what's the best thing about Earth and he looks off and smiles, he's thinking about the rest of the movie.
Huh.
Think of like, and he's wearing that new costume that he has at the end of the movie, which is
True,
confusing.
because at the time of Batman vs Superman, people were for the most part against him unless you were part of that weird cult.
Indeed. So think about that, right? Like it ends and he is Superman again, and then you see a scene where he's Superman at the beginning of the movie. It is a flash forward, and he's remembering what's great about Earth is, unfortunately, he's thinking about this movie, which is not accurate, but he's supposed to be thinking about him coming back to life and the whole adventure that got to that.
Interesting.
That is my definitive statement, but I have a ton of other notes. But that was something that I had. I was like, that's gotta be it. That's not what they're thinking. Because that's one of those things where that's probably not what is actually going on, but that's what's going on.
I mean, that makes a lot more sense now because that's probably the only scene in the whole movie that just felt out of place because it didn't really mesh with the beginning of the movie and it just kind of was there. But now, putting it in that perspective, it would make more sense.
Because really, if you think about it, the scene with Batman stopping Bill Tench should really be the first scene of the movie. Because it's doing that same thing of setting up what Defoe is, setting up the arc, kind of. The movie doesn't have one for Batman, but that's what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Huh. That's a very interesting observation.
Thanks, I was proud of it. Now, I'm going to move on to talk about, we're going to theorize for a second.
Okay.
What do you think Bill, my favorite character in this movie, Bill the thief, Bill the burglar, what do you think he was stealing? So he comes out the house with that big bag like he's the anti-Santa Claus. And he sees Batman.
House.
I guess it's an apartment, but
I mean, it wasn't like a bank either.
No, because the only reason I ask is when he puts the bag down, it sounds like he just stole people's pots and pans. That's what it sounds like.
Maybe he stole people's joy and happiness.
He's the Grinch, right? So he's the Grinch.
Yeah.
He's stealing their Christmas presents because nothing you actually like that bag is comical, right? Because you wouldn't actually put someone's jewels and stuff in a bag like that. You would put it like in a backpack, like a lot of people would have like those The backpack that Paul had from Pokemon, that single strap.
But wait, why would he try to escape on the roof?
That's a great question. What to set up Batman?
Yeah, but realistically though, like the him just existing in that whole scene makes no sense.
It makes, you know what has it make less sense?
What?
The Parademon also should not be there.
True.
Because the Parademons, the scouts, but they should be scouting for the mother boxes, which we know definitively are not in Gotham City and nowhere close to Gotham City. They're in Metropolis.
Shouldn't the parademons be like, I don't know, hanging out at amusement parks?
Or they should be in Russia, terrorizing family members for no reason.
Well, I mean that too, but I mean like an amusement park. So, if you're telling me that a parademon showed up because this burglar was being scared because Batman was going to drop him off of a building, even though Batman probably wasn't going to drop him off the building, the parademon showed up out of fear, then how come parademons off of that little bit of fear don't just hang out at an amusement park near roller coasters where people get scared easily?
You know, that's a good point. There's a lot of places that there's a lot of fear going on, you know. Why exactly? Why is there that one criminal when there are tons of other things? Think about it. Batman, not is one person. He can't stop all the crime. There has to be worse crime going on in his city. And so some woman could be being assaulted right in that moment and way more scared than some criminalist than some thief. So either they should be going after that imaginary woman more than him.
Exactly.
Also, I mean, we could just rant about that forever, but
I just thought that was interesting. The whole fear aspect doesn't make any sense in this movie either.
no, it doesn't. Also, Batman should be making this team since the beginning. Like, it seems like he's just waiting for the parademons to show up to get this team together.
Yeah.
When they really should be waiting. Like, they should have already done it.
Yeah, he should have. I mean, I guess because he's, wants to act alone, but at the same time, in Batman vs Superman, he got the message from the Flash from the future, Power Ranger Flash.
Yeah, totally different Flash, right? That's a totally different person.
Yeah, and at that point, he should have started getting everybody together.
He should act. Yeah, from that moment, he really should. Well, okay, this has been a long time since I've actually watched Batman vs Superman. So I guess that message kind of makes sense, right? Because that's saying, oh my gosh, he's actually going to. So he wakes up. So he has that dream in BVS where it's Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
With a K, of course.
Which doesn't make any sense.
No, that title doesn't make sense. But that dream.
I meant the whole dream doesn't make any sense.
No. Well, because the dream is supposed to be a premonition of like Justice League Part 2, which didn't happen.
Oh, which I have something about that, but go ahead and finish yours.
So he has that dream solidifying that Superman is evil for some reason. Only that dreams are really just about our inner subconscious. So really he's just confirming his own opinions.
And why would he be dreaming something so, I don't know,
specific?
Yeah, like come on, you can't tell me that his imagination is that wild already, that he can come up with that kind of reality.
Yeah, but then he wakes up and he has that vision of the Flash because they're recreating Crisis on Infinite Earths in that scene, which is what happens in that book, where Flash
Power
goes
Ranger
back.
Flash.
Yeah, which it makes more sense in Crisis on Infinite Earths because that's when Wally Barry is dying in that scene.
Yeah.
So that's why he's going back in time. But in that, which could be happening, we will never know. But really, in that scene, it's supposed to be we are affirming that Superman is evil. But after he finishes that, he should be like, oh, wait, this is still going to happen. Let me get the team together.
So
Oh my God.
you had your biggest thing. I've got
Yeah.
my biggest thing that I focused on in this one. So the the first time I watched the end credits, the second time I didn't watch the end credits, but the last time I did, like this past time I watched the end credits.
Yeah.
All right. So one, the simple one is just that Flash and Superman are just gonna race.
Yeah.
Which
That's
in in the comics, do we have an answer as to who's faster?
it depends. It depends on different continuities and stuff. Usually it is that Flash at this is not Apex Flash, right? This is young Flash.
Mm-hmm.
So Apex Flash, he is faster than Superman.
Okay. I'm gonna come back to that after I say this next bit. So the other post-credit scene is that Luther somehow managed to escape prison, which it's Arkham, right? So,
Is it?
you
It's
know,
either Arkham or well, no, it would be Blackgate because Arkham is strictly an insane asylum.
okay. So apparently you can just escape, especially when you're Lex Luthor. You can just easily escape and replace yourself with a copycat somehow with nobody noticing,
I mean, to be
and
fair,
somehow
this.
get a crew like a yacht at the same time without being noticed.
I mean, I would just support that for a second by saying that it thinks it's a comic book, which if you read that in a comic, you would kind of be fine with, right?
Yeah, but there's like they say, there's some things that make sense in the comics, and there's some things that don't make sense in the movies. My other thing is, if this was supposed to be setting up Justice League Part 2, because it was supposed to be a Part 1, Part 2, and we know that the post-credit scene was shot while Snyder was still working on it, because I remember seeing him post the pictures of Joe, what's his last name? Manganiello,
Yeah.
as Deathstroke. It was the behind the scenes picture. So we know that his intention was to have that post credit scene. But in reality, the part two, the Justice League, would have been what, New Gods related. I mean, that's what I'm putting together, right? I mean,
Yeah,
if
I
you're doing a
guess.
part one and part two, not like if it was a Justice League one and a Justice League two. It was supposed to be a part one and a part two.
Yeah, I have no idea then what the main.
So what if that was the case? Because I mean, that's just what I was interpreting, that the next movie would be an extension of what we got with Steppenwolf. We were going to be going towards Dark Side. Um, I mean, that's just what I kind of put together. If you were going to be doing a direct sequel to it, or a part one, part two, whatever. But if that was his intention in the first place, and we know that Snyder was the one that shot that post credit scene, why was there even that post credit scene? Like, there's
Um,
no purpose for that post credit scene being there other than to just say, "Oh hey, Lex is free," and "Oh hey, look, it's Deathstroke."
maybe they would have been like the main villains in the start of part two.
But Luther's like, "It's time we should get a league, or I think we should get a league of our own." So I'm
Is
thinking
that
like 5 or 6 members.
well, because it's the either the Doom, not Doom Patrol. That's a good guy team. It's either the. No, I can't think of the name. Legion of Doom, I guess, is what they're going for, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I would assume. But then again, so there's really no point in doing that when your Justice League Part Two was likely going to be focused on Darkseid. And if you even brought them in, you'd have to be like even if they were in the very beginning of it, this Justice League of Doom, you're gonna have to have Lex Luthor in his battle suit, probably, which would have made no sense, and have whoever else in it that nobody has even met before,
Giganta.
and expect like this Legion of Doom that you haven't met before, and just kind of
Sinestro. I'm
popped
trying
out
to
of
just think of
nowhere
people. Well, no, it'd be
to
Cheetah, right? Never mind.
see. Now it's getting too confused. Like, it doesn't. I just had a problem with it because at least with with the Marvel movies, they knew exactly what they were doing with each post-credit scene.
And if they didn't, they made it so generic that like it could be anything.
Yeah. But
Like
like that, I guess that's just my only problem with it is there's just no point in that post-credit scene being there other than to say, "Hey, Lex is free and Deathstroke is here. Say hi to him."
maybe it's setting up, maybe it's just setting up Deathstroke so he could have been in the Batman movie with Ben Affleck, but then that
Maybe.
didn't happen. Uh,
And I don't know, his costume looked really kind of cheap to me.
well, I
Like
guess
if it was like the Arrow shows, it wouldn't look as bad, but in the movie, for some reason, it just looked kind of cheap.
huh. Uh, Here's a fun fact that the actor Joe M. He also played a Flash. He played Flash Thompson in Spider-Man,
He did. I
which is
remember that.
funny. You brought up that the fact that I've never actually watched that post-credit scene. I just know it exists.
Hmm.
You brought up how Luthor says they're gonna make a league of their own. Is this a good time to talk about how bad a title Justice League is?
Yeah.
Because okay, so we the audience know it's called Justice League because that's the team name.
Hmm.
That's the team name in pop culture. But why is it called? But why is the movie called Justice League? Like, it's not about them getting justice. I guess
And
they are a league, but
they never once mention it either. Like I think we were
no.
talking this off mic, but how in the Avengers they don't. It was the scene where he was talking with Loki towards the end of the movie, and he was saying like it's not that he was making fun of the name, but he brings it up kind of like because it's Tony. I mean, he's kind of like we're the Avengers, and Loki gives him that look, and he was like, and Tony rolls his eyes, and he's just like, Earth's mightiest heroes, like kind of just a tongue in cheek kind of thing, but it makes sense at the same time because later on, like you said, they kind of pick up on that, and I think it was in a later movie where he says, "Oh, how did he word it?" Where he said, "We can avenge it."
Uh, yeah. I do not know which one it is. I think it's Age of Ultron. If we can't save the world, then we're like gonna make sure we can avenge it. That sounds like an
Yeah,
Age of Ultron line.
and that I mean that makes sense as to why they're called the Avengers. But Justice League, I mean, they never once say that they're fighting for justice. They never once call themselves a league. I
They
don't know.
do
They might have called themselves a group.
again. If you would remember, go back and listen. Or if this is your first time, I'm surprised you can even understand what we're saying. We've already 3 episodes in lost our mind, but go back and listen to episode 1 where we go through a synopsis of the movie.
Hmm.
They're just called the team. I just call them the team because they don't actually have a team name.
Yeah, you can't call them the Super Friends because they're not really friends.
They are not friends, though that is closer to what they're really, because Batman puts them together, they're closer to the Outsiders. Batman and the Outsiders.
Yeah.
Which I've never
So
actually read, but that's kind of what I would be thinking.
so going back to the other post credit scene with the Flash and how it was kind of set up earlier on in the movie, like towards the end of the movie, that it seems like Superman is probably quicker than Flash right now. But
Yeah.
I think that's part of my problem is I understand Superman is like Superman. He's supposed to be great at everything. But they really like nuke everybody's abilities in this movie compared to Superman.
That's a good point. So, could I have a note about that actually?
Okay.
Not even a note about that. Oh my gosh, what is it? While I look for it, fun fact. Uh, so we were talking about it earlier. Who Martian Manhunter was supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
and it was not supposed to be Christopher Maloney, but that other general guy.
For
I
Man of
don't.
Steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be him, and we found and there was a clip going around of Snyder's commentary on Batman v Superman,
Mm-hmm.
where oh my gosh, where is this thing I'm looking for? I'll go back to that in a second. Uh, where he says that the scene where he's supposed to be introduced is Martian Manhunter pretending to be Ma Kent,
Mm-hmm.
going and comforting Lois, and then leaving, and then he morphs into Martian Manhunter and then back to the General for some reason,
It's interesting.
which is weird. But apparently that was like a day one thing.
Well, that's
Uh,
another issue I have is why Martian Manhunter and not Green Lantern? Like that continues to piss me off.
because that's a good question. Okay, so in New 52 stuff, okay, so originally, like in the comics now with the Scott Snyder run, you gotta make that distinction because you can't just say Snyder. Uh, and before that, Martian Manhunter was kind of like the connection point. He was like the not the leader, but he was like the head member of the league, if that makes sense, because he was the one who could connect all of them
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like the eye in the sky. He was always in the watchtower. And so that's what his role was. He was like kind of like that connector of the team. And
Well,
in New
wouldn't it
50,
make more? Oh,
and in
good.
New 52, it's Cyborg because everything's technology now, and that's why Cyborg is in it because the word's more technological, so they think Cyborg. That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess it does, but it doesn't because why? Again, Martian Manhunter's an alien with psychic abilities.
Yeah.
So really, they're putting the same character in here twice to do the exact same thing.
Yeah. I just.
Oh,
Oh, good.
my point about Superman is that the movie isn't about them working together. It's about just waiting for Superman to show up.
Well, yeah, because okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you know more about the comics than I do. But as far as I know, according to the New 52, Aquaman's like legit just a step under Superman. Like he's not impervious to bullets, but they pretty much just kind of scratch him, if that. And from what I could tell, he could just about keep his own with Superman for quite a while. I mean, Superman's gonna win, but it's not like he's just some kind of pushover.
No,
It's kind of the same with Wonder Woman. Like again, Superman's gonna win, but she's also really strong.
yeah, I would say that. I'll just bring up this scene. So we're not going in any order that I want to, because I usually just want to go through this in movie order, which is fine. We don't have to. Uh, but so they lose the Braxton Island fight, correct?
Yeah,
They lose that fight, and it's supposed to be them not being a team, and that's why they lose. I
yeah.
guess like that's I guess that's what it's supposed to do.
And
But
so they
then they
become a team later on, but it doesn't matter.
well because they're trying to pay that off, but they kind of just are again not really a team, and then they lose to Superman.
Hmm.
Which yeah, Wonder Woman, that scene where Wonder Woman, Superman is just pulling Wonder Woman by the lasso is ridiculous.
Hmm.
I'm like, no, she should be able to hold her own a little more than that.
She's pretty strong, like her and Aquaman. Like I just give a little bit more credit to him, just because I remember in like the New 52, pretty sure there's like a scene of him coming out of an underwater volcano.
Yeah, I think that's actually in the Justice League Origins book.
Okay, so but that's my point is in this movie up until Superman, they try to push that these are, these really powerful versions of these characters. But then when they go against Steppenwolf, they look like they're the junior Justice League, and they can't even act like they have a shot against Steppenwolf. And then later on, when they face him again, and it'd be one thing if it was just Aquaman versus Steppenwolf. Okay, that would be a little understanding. But it's Aquaman, Batman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Cyborg, all against Steppenwolf for the most part, and they can't even like put a dent in him. But
Can
as
I say?
soon as Superman comes in, it's like, oh, hey guys, go have a seat because I can do this all by myself.
Yeah, because the whole point of like Superman coming up is he shows up and goes help everybody with their one individual thing.
Hmm.
But can I just mention, so Wonder Woman, the whole big twist of Wonder Woman. Well, there's two. Uh, but the character twist is that her sword is not the god killer she is, and she's
Hmm.
fighting a god. Shouldn't she be able to take him? I mean, super.
Exactly.
I mean, Superman does freeze his axe with ice breath, which is I think the first time we ever actually see him use it, which is cool.
Hmm.
And she breaks his axe, and then Aquaman like knocks him around. But shouldn't Wonder Woman be able to take care of him? Because he's a
Yes.
god, and she was literally born to kill gods.
Yes.
Uh, that's a thought I just had.
I mean, that's kind of my whole thing is they just nuke everybody's abilities in this movie. It just to make Superman look that much better when you don't need to. So if you wanted them to struggle, then you should have had more of a threat to them than just Steppenwolf. Because a
Well,
parademon sure as hell weren't a threat.
no, they're not. Actually, something that's very funny. It's funny because it doesn't make sense. Actually, there's two things. So one, Batman is not very good in this movie. Not like the character, which is also
Yeah,
but
he doesn't do anything in this movie.
he can't seem to fight without a gadget. Like
Hmm.
if you go back and watch the movie, every time he is losing is when he loses his gadgets, and then he's winning when he gets a hold of them again,
Yeah.
which is a theme. Like he has to use guns. Think about that. Batman like steals a parademon laser and starts shooting with it. I'm like, Batman.
And he's not very smart. So he's supposed to be really smart, like how he does everything. Wouldn't it make more sense to like sit down with Cyborg for a minute and see if they can come up with a way that to make something that would help them?
Indeed. Uh, Also in that thing to prove that they kind of suck is that in the Braxton Island fight, Flash gets shot in the leg and is injured, but then it's never
Hmm.
brought up again.
Well, he's got fast healing,
You're correct.
maybe.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
I We have to assume that's it, but they never mention it again, so it's not even like he got injured and then he's healed. It's just he gets shot in the leg and then he's fine with no
Yeah.
comment. Uh,
See, I don't know how they should have done it because I just don't think Steppenwolf was really that big of a threat that those five shouldn't have been able to take him down alone. But they needed Superman. So going forward, going into Darkseid, I mean, okay, so that now you're gonna tell me that because we know Darkseid is like so many more leagues ahead of Steppenwolf. So now you're gonna tell me that now these guys, these other five, are strong enough with Superman's help to defeat Darkseid, and yet the five of them couldn't beat somebody like Steppenwolf.
uh, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Well, probably because they should have been shown as more capable,
Yeah, that's
but
like saying the five of them couldn't beat Loki on their own without Superman coming to help, but then all six of them could beat Thanos alone.
can I just mention that that's the joke of that Loki scene is that the whole like he is not the threat of that movie. Can we just mention that
Yeah,
that's the joke of that scene where he gets knocked around by the Hulk?
yeah.
So again, it's and they're both written by Whedon, which is confusing because
Well, and
which
the
is not. I say that like it's his fault and like everything is his movie because it's not.
and the parademons aren't even like a real. like threat. Like, okay, so I would say that the Chitauri were a bigger threat than the parademons were, but if you wanted to set it up to where Superman could have his moment, then why not have, I don't know, some kind of step above parademons level threat, but under Steppenwolf that they could have fought through to get to Steppenwolf. And then as soon as they start to actually have their fight with him is when Superman shows up and they're able to do it all together.
That's a good point. Hey, remember that great moment in the second Steppenwolf cutscene where it says if you're killed by his axe, you come back as a parademon?
Yeah.
Why don't we do anything with that? Like, how great
Because.
an idea is that, right? Like, just like I guess you couldn't do that because you couldn't kill a superhero with that. Well, they killed Superman in his second movie, but so they could
Yeah.
kill one of the superheroes, I guess. But they got like there's something there. You could figure out something.
And you could have had them take the axe and kill Steppenwolf with it.
Maybe, yeah, because they wouldn't. Well, Diana would know that, but they wouldn't know that. So, like, if I don't know, okay, we're gonna have our moment to. We're gonna pitch our own version of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But if Cyborg's dad is killed and Cyborg can do that and kill Steppenwolf, and he becomes a like giant evil parademon that's a dozen times stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, his plan is done because he's not care because he's like a mindless creature. How much better of a movie would that be from that point? Because you've literally just like skipped a couple steps there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think anything really would have made it better.
Uh, anyway, I'll go on to different notes that I have. Uh, Here's one. I try not to make this show be very topical because I want it to be timeless. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but in the Metropolis Post, where they say did Superman go back to his home planet? There's an article that says Supergerm could end humanity.
Uh, that's
Uh,
interesting.
Also, did it bother you that there's that Superman memorial where they fight him again, but they never actually clean it up?
Oh, they just leave it.
Yeah, does that bother you? Because I just noticed that.
I mean, a little bit. I don't know. I never understood why, like, I don't know what the point. Oh, like, in all of his movies, he tries to use some kind of memorial or some kind of statue or something just to, I guess, add a little bit more dramatic effect to it. I don't know, because like in the last one, it was or in Batman vs Superman, it was the statue of Superman that that one guy was defacing. But he
Well,
seems
because
to
it's
always have some kind of, which in that scene it made sense, but it seems like they always got to have some kind of something to make it just seem that much more dramatic.
I mean, because well, that's the statue that's destroyed and just sitting there
Yeah,
is that statue. So why didn't they clean that statue up?
because it's too much work.
Indeed. Uh, so uh, I still don't know. I still don't know what on earth that building is that the bombers go to. I still can't figure it out. I guess it's a museum.
It looked okay, so I was putting together that it looked more like a museum this time. I mean, that's the only
It,
thing that I can assume that it is.
it looks like an art museum, but then from what we see of it, like it doesn't look like an art museum, which I guess it's in England, so I wouldn't know what an English or French art museum looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm thinking of like the Met in New York, and it doesn't look like that. Uh, but so here's how that scene ends, okay?
Okay.
First of all, it's setting up that her bracelets can stop bullets, which never comes back. Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be cool if she could deflect like the parademon lasers? Like that would make them even less of a threat, but wouldn't that be cool?
That would make too much sense.
Uh, but okay, so she ends with that gauntlet strike because it's a video game.
Mm-hmm.
How does the rest of that scene end? Because then it just cuts and she's at work the next time we see her.
She beats them up.
Well, she's already done that, but
Uh,
does she just leave? I guess so. But then Batman can't complain that nobody knows who she is because she just leaves.
I still think that should have been a Black Mask moment. I think that was a missed opportunity to like expand on the. I mean, to expand on the world a little bit, just to be
Yeah,
like, hey, look, this is Black Mask, or even do him by his real name and not even have the mask on, and then you can bring in the mask and say Birds of Prey.
but then you'd have to change their motivations, which is fine, I guess, because their motivations don't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's gotta be some religious cult in DC Comics that I don't know about. All the ones I can think of are Marvel ones now, but there's gotta be one, right?
Yeah,
Oh, here we go. Make it like a Batman villain. Make it the League of Shadows.
there you go.
That'd be a very League of Shadows thing to do, as a matter of fact.
Okay, so there was one thing that I did notice. So remember the last time we talked about that one scene, um, the flashback scene of all the Amazons, the humans, and the Atlanteans fighting
Yes.
Steppenwolf. So the first time we watched it, I thought it was Zeus, right?
Yeah.
I have another theory, and I might be wrong, but I have another theory. It might be Zeus because that would make sense. But what if it's Shazam?
Like old Shazam, like in the new movie. If it's that guy,
Yeah, well, maybe not him, but somebody who was Shazam, I guess.
I like that. I want that to be it. But you would think, well, that could work. But they didn't know that in that scene when they made it.
No, I mean, I always assumed that it was just Zeus, but it would have been cool if it was Shazam, which, thinking about it now you've probably got with Shazam in the DCEU, depending on what they do with it going forward, you now have somebody else that is just slightly weaker than Superman, but still stronger than everybody else. Probably.
Actually, well, I guess he's weaker, but he is one of the few people who could do damage because Superman's impervious to magic. Fun
well,
fact.
yeah.
Uh, here are two things that I don't really like. I just think are funny.
Hmm.
So Cyborg's arc in the movie is to make him, because he doesn't want to go back to testing because he thinks he's a monster and thinks his
Mhm.
dad's a monster. And that entire arc doesn't make sense. But I like that the end of his arc is basically to get him to look like comic book Cyborg,
Yeah.
which is funny.
I still think they should. I don't know. With Cyborg, I still think they should have had. Like, well, I guess it would have been in Batman. Well, okay. So that football scene, was that shot? Because I can't remember. Was that shot for Batman versus Superman or Justice League?
I would assume it's Batman vs Superman. That would make sense.
I wonder
Yeah,
if they.
because or if not, if it was shot like if it was supposed to be one of the opening scenes of this movie, at least.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it should have been an opening scene to this movie. Like it would have been a little bit more fitting. So you have the video podcast scene, and then you open up with something just kind of normal, like the football scene and what's going on with that. Then we see the injury, and then we remember back to what we saw in Batman vs Superman. Or I don't know. I feel like they could have worked that in there because I feel like that was probably could have been a good scene to have in there.
Yeah. Well, because what it's supposed to be doing, because he plays for Gotham High, or is he a college student? It depends. Different.
Mm-hmm.
But it's supposed to be either during the game is when you could almost do like a parallel thing between Bruce Wayne in Batman v Superman, and then
Mm-hmm.
Cyborg in Justice League, where it's again that ground eye view of the bigger battle going on.
Mm-hmm.
and that's when he gets injured, and then you can cut to. I guess I don't know. That sounds like a good idea, though.
Yeah, I just like I don't know. I just remember seeing all the set photos for that, and I really wish they would have kept it in one of the two movies.
Indeed. Also, this is also funny. Steppenwolf's big plan is to get us to like him.
Huh?
Remember that
So
scene
nobody
where
does.
Remember he leaves. He's like, "You're gonna like me. You're all gonna love me, or whatever." When he leaves Themyscira,
Mm-hmm.
that's his plan. It
He
doesn't
just
work.
wants
His plan doesn't
friends.
work. Isn't that hysterical?
He just wants friends.
Uh, why does Barry just have to put his initials on that jail form? Because this is like a giant form there, like a full form, and he just has to put his name on it. He doesn't even put his name, he just puts BA.
Yeah.
That
Bah.
doesn't like he just didn't do the rest of that form. He just did the BA and then left.
Also, I feel like that whole scene just really doesn't. The whole side story of Barry's dad being in there really doesn't fit with me. Not for the movie, at least. Like, I guess it makes sense because it's trying to give a little bit of backstory, but it just doesn't really have anything to do with anything in the movie, other than to bring it back in the end to show that he got a job, which
Yeah,
he should have already had.
yes, you should have already had it. I agree. Because I guess, you know what, I'm gonna extend my point about Cyborg's arc just being getting him to be a comic book. The comic book version is everybody's arc.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what everybody's arc is supposed to be. Uh, so I was thinking, so I think there's a lot of worst moments for me in this movie, but I think the worst is that Themyscira scene. I think that's the worst, right?
It really looks like a video game cutscene.
So it looks bad, but my wonder, my worry, my thing with it is that it's not very inventive. It's not. There's no fun characters in that scene. It's like the most detached. It is a video game cutscene because it's so detached from everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Because think back, we're not going to do the Avengers comparison yet, but this just came to me. Remember how in Avengers the bad guy comes and one of our main protagonists, Nick Fury, is in that room when that happens?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't one of our main protagonists here when this happens?
Because it makes too much sense.
Because that's so. There's no characters that we care about. It's not even an inventive action scene, right? He just goes from a plain building to a plain field.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that whole thing. There's nothing fun there. Because the way you'd make this creative is have the vault deep underground,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'd be like a giant action scene up through the throne, up through the castle, and then out to the field.
Well, I mean, clearly whatever it was that went on with the whole digital effects and everything, clearly they were trying to cut it short right there because they didn't spend much time working on anything
No,
in that
clearly
scene.
not. No, clearly not.
So,
Which I think my favorite part of it, just for comedy, is that Steppenwolf just makes a tiny X in a wall, but then he just smashes through no problem. But no, like it seems for no reason. Like, you usually do that to like help, but then he take a tiny little X
hmm,
and it just blows open. I'm like, that's not how that's supposed to work.
it works for him.
It does. One of my favorite lines is the aliens that stole her man. I hate that guy because he's like just making fun of a woman who just lost her husband, but also that delivery is very good.
I don't know, that's probably the funniest scene in the whole movie, other than the Batman fighting Superman scene.
Yes. Mark Kent just seems to brush off that her credit score uh dropped farther down than her son's grave. She just seems to brush off the fact that she has like a 1 on her credit score.
So, okay, the house is in foreclosure, right? That's what
It
happened?
is it is foreclosed on. She has
Okay,
lost it. That has already happened.
so here's my question. How old do you think Superman is?
I I assume he's supposed to be like 30.
Okay, so what, 30 what, 35? 30,
Sure. Yeah,
32?
because
We'll go 32.
yeah, let's say everything happens in real time. So
Hmm.
Man of Steel is 2014, 2015. No, Batman vs
20,
Superman is
2013.
2013. So he's 30 then. So, but he also died. So for like 2 years, it doesn't count. So yeah,
Okay,
he's about like 32, 33.
well, going by Man of Steel, because the house wasn't foreclosed on yet, so 20, 2013, he's 30 years old, okay? How old do you think he was in Man of Steel at his youngest point?
What is he, like 10 or 12 or something?
Well,
When
actually,
like,
no, because he was sent there, so, and he was just born, right? So, 0 when they found him,
well,
or a
yeah,
day
but I
old,
guess,
2 days old.
yeah, but I don't think that counts because he's,
But they were still in the house, right?
yeah.
Okay.
You're
How
getting
old
to the point that they should have paid off the house.
how old do you think he was when
Oh my God.
the tornado got Pocket?
Uh, he's supposed to be in like college, so I'd say between like 18 and 20.
Okay.
He
So
doesn't
you're
look it, but
telling
that's what
me,
he's supposed to be.
so you're telling me that in 18 years, because they must have owned the house probably at some time before
Well,
they found.
it's in the basement. His ship is in the basement of the house.
Yeah.
Is in like the of the barn, I should say.
So in 18 years, because Paul was still working at the time, she was working at the time.
She
So with
looks at
both of them,
those.
working in 18 years, you're telling me they didn't pay off that house, let
That's a,
alone the additional 12 more years when she still is working and still in that house in Man of Steel. So 30 years they still didn't have that house paid off.
which most mortgages are 30-year mortgages. And they got that house in like what, the 70s, the 80s. Got to
Well,
have low interest rates, low prices. Yeah, you're right. That's a fantastic
so why
point.
would it be foreclosed on?
That's a fantastic point. So uh that's a yeah. Well, okay. So the real reason is to show that Ma Kent's in a bad way now that her son is dead. Almost like her son died, and you should show her being sad about it.
So it says some people pay off their debt over 15 years, others it takes about 30 years. There's no right or wrong way, but you're usually looking anywhere between 10 and 30 years. So they should have had it paid off. My
Indeed.
other question though is so in Batman vs Superman, Batman finally stops because of the whole Martha scene, and then he saves Superman's mom.
Yeah.
And so they have some kind of connection there, but then Batman just never gives a crap about her after the fact. Never checks on her. Never goes, "Oh, hey, your house is being foreclosed on. Why don't I just pay off the remaining debt so that you don't have to worry about that?"
So it can be a good moment at the end of the movie where he does buy the house and the bank.
Yeah, because it makes a lot of sense to just buy the bank.
Well, it's funny because I put the line exactly. Clark is like, "You bought the bank," and he's like, "It's just it's like a reflex in me."
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That'd be funny if we actually saw him buying other stuff.
The
Like, you
whole
remember that scene in Avengers Age of Ultron where Tony just like buys the city so they can destroy it and it's his property? It's like that, only worse.
you know the mom Kent scene of her talking about the foreclosure and everything, or her credit score, all that stuff, whatever. We are just one step away from her being in a bank with Clark, talking about getting the free toaster for
I
opening a
knew
new
you were
account.
going to do this. I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
What movie is that from?
Spider-Man 2.
Yep. Like
Oh.
that feels so similar for some reason.
I do like, so it's fun that Amy Adams, that Lois is still wearing the engagement ring. That's nice.
even though they never got married.
No. But so I may not like the line, but I love Amy Adams' expression when Ma Kent confuses hungry and thirsty and hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a moment of she's like, "Oh my God, what did she say about me?" Here's a question that I have about Steppenwolf.
Okay.
So his title is Steppenwolf, the End of Worlds. Is that what his name means, or is that just like his moniker? Like God of Thunder. Is that just like
Hold on a second.
I also like that they think the Doomsday Clock has a snooze button. That's a pretty good line.
All right, guys. I'll see you. Bye. I'll have to cut that out.
Yeah. Also while you're looking or whatever, Barry watches Rick and Morty, which is weird. Uh
No, that seems like his kind of thing.
it does. It just bothers me every time I see that scene because it's clearly a reshoot or a
Mhm.
different take of that scene because I remember the trailer scene from Justice League and that's not what one, that's not what his place looks like, and two, he's not watching that stuff.
So
Uh,
one interesting thing we should do at some point is watch all the original trailers and compare them.
that's a good idea. I want to
I was
try to
just thinking
go.
about that.
I'll add that to our list. I want to go as far before. I want to go as far as I can before we have to go and do other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're doing this for 52 weeks, we gotta make it last.
Yeah.
But no, that's a really good one. Oh, I have one that I didn't tell you. We read reviews of the movie.
Oh, like critic reviews or audience reviews?
Both. That'd be
Oh,
hysterical.
I'm okay with that.
Uh, anyway. And he says he's a snack hole, Barry does, but we only ever see him eat that one pizza that one time.
Yeah, he should be eating a lot more.
They do okay
Although
to be
the science behind that, I feel like he should be dead by the end of the movie, but
to be fair, that he does mention his blood sugar after I think the Superman fight, and
Mhm.
Bruce tells him to go talk to Alfred in the kitchen. So I guess
Yeah.
that's hand waving it away, but still we should see him eating a lot. To go back to focusing on Wonder Woman's outfits and her style, she changes outfits randomly to go meet Victor. She's wearing like a black outfit earlier in the day, and then she changes into like a leather, not like leather, but like a high like brown outfit.
Maybe she's
That's
trying to, bust a move.
maybe. I also don't understand why Victor thinks he's fine alone. I mean, I know what it's doing. It's supposed to be like they all think they're fine alone, but they're really not. Uh,
Hmm.
but that's not what happens, and I don't know why he thinks that. I mean, I guess it's because he's scared, but it doesn't sound like he's scared in that scene.
Eh, nah. He's just doing the typical brooding kind of thing.
Indeed. So when Arthur saves that guy in the boat from the parademon, I guess that sank his ship.
Hmm.
I guess that's what's supposed to have happened. Uh, he has the blood, so he drinks that glass of whiskey or scotch or whatever, and he puts it down. And he checks his hands, and then there's blood, and then it like cuts away, and it cuts back, and the blood on the glass and his hand is gone.
Huh.
That's a continuity error.
Well, yeah. We'll give
Also,
him
it's
that one.
also it's nice to know that Steppenwolf can breathe underwater.
It's also nice to know that superheroes do actually drink a little bit on the job.
Oh, that
Because realistically, like, I don't know, if I was doing that kind of thing, I don't know if I could do the job without having a little drink.
I mean that's how you get to Demon in the Bottle, right? The Tony stuff
Well, yeah,
story with
Tony. He doesn't have an excuse though, damn it.
uh I mean
He's just in a suit the whole time. He doesn't have to, actually be stabbed or thrown away by a superpowered being.
yeah, it's not like he was ever stabbed and almost died in a movie before. That never happened.
Oh, or, like, I don't know what you would call it, blown up by snapping his fingers or something.
Yeah, none of that ever happened. I just like so we keep talking about how Bruce is so smart because he's Batman.
Mhm.
He makes a lot of assumptions about Clark's state when he's dead. Like he doesn't
Like what?
actually know. I don't have him listed. I can do that next time. But
Okay.
he just assumes a lot like Clark is still alive and that he could be brought back this way. And that his body wouldn't decompose.
Even though realistically, I can see this going very bad and turning into another doomsday situation.
Indeed. Yeah, because
Like, okay, so it took. Let's talk about the logic of this for a minute. It took Superman and having the kryptonite available for them to take down Doomsday. These people can't even get through Steppenwolf, who I would actually say is weaker than Doomsday, especially with how he was interpreted in Batman vs Superman. And yet, the possibility that bringing Superman back could literally turn him into another Doomsday seems like a great idea.
that's a good idea.
Like if
God,
they did that and it went bad, then they would be screwed. The whole world would be screwed.
Yeah, you're right. It's bad. Also, so this is the point I was trying to make earlier about when you were saying that Superman was overpowered.
Mm-hmm.
In that scene where they're debating, Bruce says he says, so we know it's in the movie, and this is a thing that they have thought about, that they are a team that is disconnected. And Bruce's thought is that instead of trying to make it work, they're just gonna bring someone back from the dead to save their problems for them.
Yep, sounds about right to
Well,
me.
again, it's supposed to be he feels like guilt over it and stuff, but also, ah, that it
Okay,
doesn't like.
wait a second here. Talking about the overpowered thing. So,
Okay.
okay, so can we both agree that Doomsday is probably stronger than Steppenwolf?
Yes, because Doomsday's whole thing is that when he is basically a Saiyan, right? Because when he gets injured, he just comes back stronger,
Okay,
like from Dragon
so
Ball.
and I understand that Doomsday, yeah, was weak to the kryptonite and everything, right? But they were holding their own in that movie for quite a while, and there were only three of them.
Yeah.
Only three of them. And now you've got five of them, minus Superman, fighting a weaker guy, and they can't even scratch him.
Um, because he has an army of literal insects.
No, that's no excuse.
I
Mr.
mean that,
Flash there with all of his lightning, realistically, he should be able to, if he can control it like he says he can, he should be able to shock all of them.
but he trips over his feet,
Or if he's as fast as he says he is, he should be able to just get rid of all of them or run right through them.
which he does, to be fair. But yeah, you're
Too many
making good
logic
points.
issues.
You're making good points. Can I make the good point that so they go to Zod's ship to bring Clark back at night, and then when Clark is brought back to life, it's the like sunny out. It's the next day, like it's daytime.
It
That's
took a
weird.
while.
It did. Also the human mother box looks different than all the other ones.
Oh, I never noticed that.
What else? Because I didn't do this in order. Because we didn't
Oh,
go in
also the
order.
humans in the flashback part with the humans. Are we supposed to believe that the humans that were fighting alongside was supposed to be like King Arthur or something? Because that's what I was thinking.
Well, wasn't that like speculation about that earlier? Was that supposed to be like King Arthur and there's like a whole thing about that?
Oh, I didn't know about that. I was just assumed that that's. I mean, that's what it seemed like it was.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then we're the Transformers.
Um, Cyborg. Cyborg already looks like a Transformer.
Yeah, but if we're going by King Arthur's logic, the Transformers met King Arthur, so they should be here.
Indeed. Because they're not owned by the same studio, so they couldn't get
Oh,
him.
okay, that makes sense.
So I made the complaint about how we know the scenes on the farm with Clark and Lois are afterwards because they don't kiss because he
Hmm.
has no mustache. They do kiss, but it's a long shot, like a long shot, so you don't see him close up. And I think they have like Lois's head toward the camera, so that was just a
Hmm.
correction I wanted to say. Just because we're going to be here, so I figured I can do that. Just be like, they didn't kiss, they did.
They did.
Sorry. The fact that Cyborg can think that he can push the troop carrier faster than it can physically go doesn't make sense.
No.
Because if it physically, like, neither of us have sports cars, but if, like, a NASCAR driver was like, I can get this baby up to 200 miles an hour with no problem.
It's only
Um,
supposed to go as fast as it can go.
yeah, I'm like, you can go ahead and take my, my Toyota and go try and do that. Have fun. But like,
Good luck.
it physically couldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's very funny that Arthur and Bruce just constantly throw insults at each other, like little
That
jabs.
that seems right though. I
Yeah,
like that kind of interaction they have.
I really wish Barry didn't know what "I need you to take a walk" means.
Yep.
He's like, "You just want me to leave?" And because he runs, but I was like, "Just what do you mean?
Yeah.
We know what you mean, but what do you mean?" Uh,
Also, Barry has no sense of direction.
he does. He is a character in One Piece. He's every character on the Straw Hat crew except for Nami, right?
True.
Because that's the only reason they ever have problems in One Piece is that they get lost.
Yeah. Shouldn't if he has no sense of direction, shouldn't he have like some kind of GPS on him at all times? Like he was able to
Yes.
build that suit, but he doesn't have like a portable GPS thing on his wrist.
Well, so there's of course always that debate which the Tom Holland Spider-Man fixed of the eyes, because in comics are white eyes.
Hmm.
Shouldn't Barry's suit have like the little white enclosures on them, which could also give him direction and heading and stuff?
Well, then you'd be giving him a whole like heads up display though. Do you
Like,
still consider him the Flash at that point?
I mean, I think it's fine. I'm not. That's not something
Or
I'd
do
ever
you
consider
consider
again.
him, or do you consider him Iron Man Power Ranger Junior?
Well, he actually has powers, so
But
I would
with
say,
powers then.
well, yeah, because I don't know. That's not a terrible idea, because then he would also have like police radio in his head.
Hmm.
No, that makes sense. I'll stand by that decision, even if it makes him look like Iron Man or a Power Ranger.
Power Ranger, Iron Man, Spider Man Junior with
I mean,
lightning.
you could just say Power Ranger because the movie that came out right before this came out made them all look like Iron Man,
True.
which I guess is more just unfortunate because that's how you would do everything like Power Rangers now, and Iron Man just came out first.
You could almost just put the Flash in that Power Rangers movie and tell me that he was the Red Ranger, and I would believe you.
Uh, okay, so Superman has that suit when he comes back, but what happened to his suit the first time?
Well, how does he have another suit?
That is my point.
I guess his dad made another one for him.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe it's just
He's got a whole closet full.
or maybe it's like that Fortress of Solitude can just print new ones.
Because
Which
that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I don't hate it. It doesn't make sense, but I don't because
Well,
I don't,
okay, so if he gets a suit that gets damaged, because the material that his suit is made of is only a material that they had on his home planet.
yeah.
So how does he even make a new suit if he ever needs one?
It's like that scene in Far From Home, Spider-Man Far From Home, where he just builds it.
But he doesn't have the material.
I would assume it's just like something that his Fortress of Solitude has.
Huh.
I don't know. It makes
He,
sense. It
he
makes
should
sense
have
to
gone with the
me.
black suit.
Well, again, the black suit was because it helped him absorb radiation so he could get
Hmm.
stronger. But yes, he should have. That would be cool. My final actual note is a note. So, in the first scene of the movie, that's really the end of the movie.
Hmm.
Superman says, "Hope is like your car keys. They're always there, even if you can't find them." But then, that's a fine enough line, right?
Yeah.
It's that line. There's also the line in is it Last Jedi where the like Leia always said this, even though we've never seen her say it, which is not, if hope is like the sun, it's if you can't see it when it's not there, then you're lost or whatever.
Hmm.
There's that line. So they're both saying the same thing. But then Lois, in her terrible monologue that doesn't make sense, her article about, I don't know what it's about. Uh, Hope is there. You just have to like look up in the sky. Like, I guess there's more to it. Cause now that I read it, I'm like that does make sense. But it doesn't, because I remember in this scene I was thinking that doesn't make sense. So I'll maybe come back to that. But I think it also goes against the message of the movie.
So I have another way they should have brought Superman back.
Okay.
They should have, because both Diana and Bruce knew that when in Batman vs Superman, when he blew up, that he was healed by the sun. So why not make the black suit for him? Make it as a suit that helps absorb the sun's radiation, whatever, and then just launch him into space.
That's also a good point. Because
And then just wait for him to come back to life.
that's a good point. Hey, remember that whole scene in the trailer for Justice League where it's Alfred saying, "Oh, you're back," or something, "Oh, you're here."
Yeah,
God,
it was
that was
supposed to be a surprise.
I know, isn't like boy, isn't that interesting? Boy, don't you wish that was in this movie somewhere?
Hmm.
Anyway, those are all the notes I have for this because it's getting. I mean, there's still a lot. We've been recording for over an
About right.
hour,
Yeah, it's about
but
right.
that's still like there's still a whole bunch of like nothing to this movie.
Well, we're gonna have to find something because we still got 48 more weeks. Is that right? Oh, 40,
49.
49 more weeks.
Don't give me hope like that.
I'm sorry.
Well, I can talk about that this next time. I'm going to plan. So,
Okay.
uh, again, I don't want to date it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Since we've been home, I've been doing a lot of cooking and making new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when I watched, when I
You're gonna make some
watched,
Batman cookies.
that sounds delightful, but no, I mean, those would be tasty. I'll look up a recipe for that.
Okay.
But in the meantime, uh, so what I'm gonna do is when I watched The Last Jedi, right before I saw Rise of Skywalker, when I had probably my best experience with that movie,
Mm-hmm.
was when I was cooking and baking and stuff. When I was actually like doing other stuff that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do that when I watch the movie this time, because usually I always have it on like the big, on the TV and the TV in my room, or I'm watching it in my room while I'm taking notes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do it while I'm doing something else and doing this other thing that gave me this really good experience with Last Jedi to see if it gives me any new thoughts with Justice League. I'm gonna try it
I'll try that too. I'll see if that works for me.
because I think that's an interesting idea, right?
Yeah,
Which
we'll
I
try it
mean,
and see if we
Last,
pick up on anything new.
I could just be like at this when this scene happened, I was
Yeah.
putting the oven on. Isn't that fun? Let's analyze the oven and how that relates to this scene. God. Uh, oh my goodness, we gotta think of some other stuff to do then. But I mean, do you have any other final thoughts?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head from this viewing, but it
I'm
seems like every time we watch it, though, I find something else, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm going through my notes one last time. Uh, yeah. So okay, here's something. So the Russian family that's there for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to be fair, they set up that they're outcasts earlier because one of them says we need to go get help or we need to wait here for help, and one of them says, "But who's gonna help us?"
Because the Russians don't care.
Yeah, because Russia, which boy, it being Russians is kind of a bad look now, right?
Yeah.
That's really unfortunate. I mean, I guess they're innocent, so it's fine.
Poor Russians.
I know. Sucks. It sucks that the town that they were just squatting at is destroyed. This what did you call it? Chernobyl 2?
Yeah, that's what it is, Chernobyl too.
God, can you imagine if this was a sequel to that Chernobyl show that you keep telling me to watch?
Oh, it would, yeah, you need to watch it. That show's great.
Anyway, thanks as always for listening. You can follow us on uh, Facebook, Twitter, and here on YouTube at Tower City Media. Email us at towercitymedia@gmail.com, all one word.
And if you guys have anything that you noticed in the movie, or if you're following along and watching weekly with us,
Don't do
be sure
that.
to, yeah, don't torture yourselves like that. But if you are, go ahead and send us in any notes that you guys have, and we'll make sure to bring them up on the show.
That's a great point. Or if there's anything I want to say if there's anything we missed, but also, I guess so. I mean, I don't know anyone who would care enough to do that other than us. But anyway, uh, thanks as always. And
And we'll
what?
see you guys next week.
Bye.